Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This guy right over here is Tim, and welcome to the Second Legacy, and thank you so much for stopping by. Today, we have got some amazing stuff we got to talk about. We're going to talk about national guns and state guns. We got to talk about executive orders that are sneaking out all the plans for gun control. We've even got to talk about a little bit of an interesting situation with Democrats and their faltering at the state level on gun control. There is so much that we're going to break down. We've got Second Legacy, we've got Tim, we've got Braden. We are going to hit this, and I cannot wait to hear what you guys think in the comments field below. If you'd love to see the channel grow, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure the notification bell is on so we can pass the blessing of the Second Amendment along to the next generation. And today's content is brought to you by AccuFire. AccuFire was kind enough to sponsor this content as we are getting off, and thank you so much to them on a day-to-day basis for supporting the action that you're about to see, and they are going to provide some things that might help you see a little clearer the next time you go to the range exercising your freedom. But with that out of the way, Tim, before we jump in, we've got so many things to talk about. I want to know how you're doing, sir.
Doing great, man. Doing great. You know, it's almost springtime, and we got daylight savings time in our favor now, and it's starting to warm up, and really looking forward to the summer. I hear that you're getting some of our weather down south.
It's a little colder than I prefer it to be. Yeah. So once you get it below about 40, I start having problems, and I blame you. But this isn't about the weather, Tim. We got to talk about some freedom. So I'm gonna do Tim's choice, because these things get exciting when Tim chooses. What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about first the whole state level stuff where Democrats are faltering, or do you want to do national guns and state level guns? I'll let you decide.
Well, let's start off with something fun and a little bit positive. Let's talk about national guns and state level guns.
Okay, that's cool. So let me provide a little context here, and then we'll break this down. So about 2 weeks ago, Mr. Producer, if you could put up number 3.5, Representative George Santos backs a bill to make the AR-15 assault rifle the national gun of the United States. Now, of course, that was the chagrin of every gun controller, and everyone was clutching their pearls. Wasn't going to happen, but it was an interesting move. I mean, we talked about it. It was kind of a thing, but now something interesting is happening in Wyoming. If you could jump to number 4, the Republicans there are floating a bill to designate a state rifle. Now, I'll be honest, my nostalgic side is kind of pleased that they're choosing lever actions of all things with that whole cowboy heritage. But Tim, what's going on with state level, national level guns? Is this like birds? Like, walk me through this. What do you think's going on here?
Well, I want to see the lever action that they're selecting, because it might be one of the new tactical carbines, with the M-LOK rails and things like that. Maybe even go so far as the POF 9mm that uses Glock magazines. Glock magazines are universal awesomeness. But yeah, it's
does it take Glock mags?
Glock mags? Yes. So I think this is fun, right? So it's funny to see the reporting, first of all, saying that the AR-15 assault rifle. Oops, you meant assault weapon, didn't you? But anyway, and it would be really fun to see something like that happen, because honestly, the AR-15 is America's rifle.
Most common.
Yeah, it is the most common. And you might look at this and kind of laugh, but if something like that were to pass, say we get a pro-gun administration and we get, pro-gun House and Senate, and they pass something like that, all that does is incrementally advance our cause, right? Because then we get recognition that the AR-15 is America's rifle. And how do you ban America's rifle? You really can't, true. Right?
Well, I'm so sorry. Finish your thought.
No, that's it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's actually, it's funny, because like you said, God, you're so good at this, Tim. So you brought in something very interesting. Yeah, it might be tongue-in-cheek. It might be fun. We might get it passed as kind of a little piece of information coming from a pro-gun administration. But there's something a lot deeper here. If you've got something that's the national gun, like you said, how can you ban the national gun? Which then goes to, how can you ban an AR if it's in common use? Which, per we know, a lot of SCOTUS decisions have said it's in common use. You've even got Supreme Court or state-level Supreme Court cases coming out saying that stun guns are in common use with significantly less numbers out of Massachusetts, of all places. So you're actually hitting on something really poignant, because as it gets more common use, as it is accepted that this is our rifle, because it's the number one owned rifle in America, it becomes impossible to ban. It is part of our culture, which we already know it is. But it gets even further. That's why I think this has legs, honestly, down the road.
Yep. Yeah, I think a lot of folks that perhaps read that article might have just assumed it was just a snarky thing to do. But I do think that there's an overarching strategy to this. And as you said, it is all about normalizing the AR-15, which is America's rifle, which is a great thing to see, because when I was a young man, the AR-15 wasn't all that popular. You know, you had the Joaquin Jacksons of the world. You only need 5 rounds in a bolt-action rifle if you're a real man. You know, and today we see that kind of paradigm shift towards the AR-15. You know, people use them for self-defense. People use them for competition. People use them for hunting. People use them for everything. I'm guilty as charged. I use the AR-15 for everything, and including the AR-10. So it's it definitely is America's rifle, and we need this legislation to pass. And I hope that, you know, in the future we're able to get it done.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. And on my own little guilty pleasure is the different Wildcat cartridges that ARs are coming out with as we go forward. 300 Blackout, 300, you know, obviously based on the Whisper. You've got the Wilson 300. I mean, you've got all these different, the Hammer, like so many cartridges.
Yeah. The new 8.6.
Really fascinating.
The AR-15 is such an amazing rifle because it is so, you know, open, and the design of it is so friendly to modification and changing cartridges and changing optics and changing handguards and changing all the things that the anti-gunners want to take away from us. You know, because you can't have that evil handguard. They call it a barrel shroud, but you know, you got to ban that. Yeah.
I thought
and don't forget grenade launchers. We got to get rid of grenade launchers, right? Because that was in a recent piece of legislation. Let's go ahead and ban grenade launchers in Colorado because, you know, you shouldn't have those. It doesn't matter that they're already regulated and you can't get the ammunition for them, but let's just go ahead and ban them because you know, if we can save just one life by stopping that drive-by grenading. Yeah. So hasn't happened yet, but it could, and therefore we got to ban it.
Yeah, we do. And so this kind of goes to the next one because people who are watching The Second Legacy, people who are watching this channel, I bring this one up as number 2 for you guys because I'm just excited for Tim's responses. I'm going to set this up. Tim, we're about to dive into Biden, the undetectable guns. Oh, I'm excited. So let's hit this here. So last week, we talked about Biden's new executive orders on guns. So, Mr. Producer, this is number 6. Fact sheet. President Biden announces new actions to reduce gun violence and make our communities safer. Okay. Take apart the whole marketing thing here. But we hit on this pretty hard because the executive orders were something that are kind of a bit of an overreach, and that's an understatement. But something happened that I found very interesting. If you could throw up number 7, Mr. Producer, this is one that kind of went under the radar for a minute. Advanced congressional efforts to prevent the proliferation of firearms undetectable by metal detectors. Well, if you're saying undetectable by metal detectors, I mean, Tim and I even made some jokes about this. What is it? What are they even talking about? Why would they throw that in there? Well, let's jump to Oregon 3 days later. House Bill, this is number 8, Mr. Producer. House Bill 2005 would punish the manufacturing, sale, and possession of undetectable firearms intended to skirt security screenings and untraceable firearms that lack a serial number. So that's ghost guns and ghost guns light, right? This is basically, they're going after the idea that every single gun is nothing but polymer. There is no metal. In fact, listen to this quote from one of the people pushing this. Number 10, Mr. Producer. Advancements in printer technology have made the guns more advanced and easier to slip through security. Quote, these guns are purely plastic. They have literally no metal, and they literally cannot be detected, Rosenblum told the Capitol Chronicle. And that's coming out of Oregon. So, Tim,
Did they have a picture in this? Did they have a picture of this firearm in the article?
Not in the article. No, but purely plastic.
You know, these crazy kids with their 3D printers, they've figured out a way to harden plastic so that you can get a barrel to contain pressures. You can get a spring steel out of polymer, apparently. And apparently you can make a firing pin that you can harden out of polymer using these 3D printers. I had no idea.
Right. You know, it's impressive.
Now, you do have like the defense distributed, you know, zip gun that they made back in the day that created all the hoopla. You know, it did have a polymer barrel and mostly plastic, but you still, to ignite the primer, generally speaking, you're going to need steel in the firing pin or some sort of a metal, and you're going to need a spring, which is metal to my best of my knowledge. Now, granted, I'm not keeping up with 3D printer technology, but I'm pretty sure they haven't made spring steel from polymers just yet. And so it seems really silly to me. And if you also keep in mind that the firearms that are mostly polymer are generally 22 long rifle, right?
Yep.
A fairly low pressure. They're not going to last. There's no rifling. The barrel's not going to hold pressure for any length of time. It's a pure novelty. And it's just so crazy that they're so concerned with these because, to my knowledge, they've never been used in any type of, you know, nationally publicized crime that I'm aware of. And so they're just all this hand wringing and pearl clutching over nothing. And I know where they're going with this. They're probably confusing polymer 80s with
Yes.
actual polymer firearms, because these people that pass these laws know nothing about firearms, which is evidenced by just the Colorado gun control bill that we were talking about a few days ago, right?
Yep.
They don't even know what they're talking about. They're just randomly picking things off a list and going, yeah, we got to ban this, got to ban this, got to ban this. Why? Because it just sounds dangerous. And
Correct.
what person that isn't in the 2A community is going to take a look at this conversation and go, oh yeah, we shouldn't have 100% polymer guns. Gosh, that's really dangerous.
Right.
They just don't know.
Excuse me. But that's the thing that you just hit on. You just hit on something so powerful. These guns won't even work. If you're talking about the pressure levels of any rifle beyond a 22, like you said, anything beyond that cartridge, even a lot of handgun cartridges, you're not going to be able to have a functioning firearm only polymer. It's
There has
genuinely
any type of reliability,
not possible.
right?
Not
you might get it
possible.
to fire 1 or 2 rounds, but beyond that,
Maybe.
the 100% polymer gun's just going to disintegrate.
Right. It's not possible.
Yeah. And you have 3D printer technology coming online now that's becoming more affordable that allows people to print metals. That's why we're seeing 3D printed silencers. We're seeing 3D
Yep.
printed firearms coming out of, parts within firearms being used by major manufacturers, because that is the future of manufacturing. And what they're trying to do here is to take away the future of manufacturing from the people,
Yes.
because we have historically throughout the entire history of our nation been able to make firearms for our own personal use. And this is what they're going after. They're just wrapping in something that sounds scary, as they always do. It's no different than wrapping something in the terminology of assault weapon. That just sounds scary. What is it? Well, it just looks a certain way, right?
Yep.
The example we gave in a previous video about 2 different versions of the Mini 14, one with a pistol grip, one with a wooden stock. It's the same rifle, but one's an assault weapon and the other one's just a rifle. And it's all based on appearances. And this is just more appearance-based stuff that's meant to scare people and get them to vote in favor of this nonsense, because that's what they do. That's the only way they can get this legislation passed, is to be dishonest, wholeheartedly dishonest. And that's what we're seeing here.
Oh, I completely agree. But what's so fascinating about this to me, and this piece I think has a lot to do with it as well. If they were only concerned with pre-manufactured 80% frames or 80% lowers or whatever 80% you created over the ghost gun thing, if that was the concern, they would have stopped there. If it was truly something that they were massively concerned about, these things, and the ATF's going to take a move and Biden's going to redefine all these different terms, the ghost gun thing is falling apart on its face. So now you're going to go beyond the ghost gun thing and you're going to go to super ghost gun? Are you going to go poltergeist? Is it undetectable? Like, what are we going to call this one? Because if you're going down the road of, well, ghost guns were bad, but turns out we were unconstitutional and we're getting stuffed in courts in Texas. So that's bad. And the floodgates are opening per something else we covered on another video on this channel. But what are they going for here? You nailed it. They're going towards the future of firearms. They are trying to get in the front of the manufacturing of your own individual firearm, not for sale, for yourself. And like you said, that goes back to Kentucky, back with our frontiersmen, when the word rifle was actually invented because Kentucky people, German immigrants, made them. That's not, some company didn't do it. Some evil manufacturing company didn't do it. Individuals did it in their communities. And that is actually the background of a rifle itself. That's what's so powerful, is that American ingenuity is what brought us to this point, and they're trying to stifle that. I think that's a very good point.
And if you take a look at the Second Amendment, it guarantees the right to keep and bear arms. And presumably you should be able to also manufacture that firearm. Where in the Constitution does it say you have to go to a major corporation to buy their products, right? Yep. If we have a right to self-defense, we have a right to arm ourselves, and we have a right to make those weapons. We have a right not to let the government know what we're doing. That is part of our freedom. That is part of our liberty. That is part of our personal security, part of our, identity as a nation. And they're trying to take all that away from us because they just want to ban guns. That's what this all boils down to. Absolutely. And like you said, they want to get in front of the whole modern manufacturing thing so that they can take that away from us preemptively.
Oh,
and they're going to wrap it in the shroud of, look at this, Glock Porcelain 7 from, a 1980s bad action movie. Well, actually, it's a great Christmas movie, but that's not the point.
All right, you just triggered so many people on both sides in the same sentence, and that was impressive. But you did also provide me an amazing segue to the next segment here. So something that we've seen my beautiful brothers and sisters in the Second Amendment community, something that we're seeing is a reaction to the Bruen decision from leftist legislators across the United States. We've seen it consistently. Illinois did their own assault weapons ban. Washington State came out with an assault weapons ban. Colorado's coming out with one, raising the ages of limits across everywhere. Different concealed carry things from the Northeast. You're seeing a full-on resistance to the Bruen decision because they got smoked. So what do you do when you get punched in the face? You act like you're tough and it didn't hurt, and then you're going to do it some more, and you're going to end up back in the exact same place. However, this is where this gets interesting. Oh, and Michigan is another example. We're talking about more gun control coming down in Michigan this week. But what's fascinating is when you look at the state legislatures, that what they're doing, and the governors have said, we want assault weapons bans, we want to raise the minimum age, we want safe storage laws, we want red flag laws. The state legislators, the Democrats in blue states are going, this is kind of unconstitutional. I don't think it's going to hold. And the lines are breaking. So here's what I'm going for. First, I'm going to show you New Mexico. Check this out. This is interesting. Mr. Producer, this is number 1. Governor says she's going to keep pushing on crime gun bills. And then number 2. As Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham started her post-session news conference Saturday, she already knew the score. Of the roughly 40 public safety bills introduced this year, the governor said she championed 10. Quote, we have about a handful up, and out of 40, it's 10 that passed, and not all of those would really constitute what I think are strong public safety measures. Here's what failed in a blue state of New Mexico. Number 3, Mr. Producer. But some of the governor's biggest priorities went nowhere, including a ban on assault weapons, a bill to raise the age to 21 to buy or possess semi-automatic firearms, including assault weapons, and a 14-day waiting period to buy guns. Now, the reason that I introduced that, Tim, we're starting to see cracks in the armor because even Democrats in positions of power at the state level are going, I don't think this is going to hold up. And you're stuck between governors wanting to look good and actual reality. What's your take on this?
Yeah, it's amazing to watch. And I kind of anticipated seeing this paradigm shift at some point. This is, earlier than I had hoped for and had expected. But look, at these Democrats are getting shellacked at the courts, and they know that. And what looks worse? Not doing anything to appease your base, or doing something and having the court constantly smack you down for it. Because
absolutely.
That makes them look bad in that it looks like they're purposely trying to violate the Constitution. So it puts egg on their face. So they're trying to pick the lesser of two evils here, and they're going for, well, let's just do nothing and pretend like, we have other things on our agenda, because they understand that the minute this goes to the Supreme Court, they're going to get their rear end spanked once again, and they're going to look bad to their constituents. And so they're going to look inept. They're going to look, the exact opposite of how they want to appear publicly, so they can get reelected. So they're kind of between a hard spot right now. And it's funny to watch. But look, this is the way it's supposed to happen, right? Yes, I wish we could get these gun laws struck down more quickly. I wish we could see this shift in public opinion happen more quickly. But the fact is, it's going to take us a while to get there. And the fact that these Democratic legislatures in these historically anti-gun states are starting to take a step back and go, I don't think we can get away with that. We might want to revisit this, is pretty telling and awesome.
Oh, I think it's incredible because as you said, again, so astute. You must have been doing this for a while. So the thing that's so powerful about this is, as you said, a lot of the times they will flex their left muscles and they'll say, look at the virtue signal that I put forward. We did something on gun safety. It's better to do something than nothing, even though something's going to do nothing. And the important thing here is eventually, when nothing changes, no outcomes change, and the risk, or really the sacrifice of Second Amendment rights is not getting weighed against the outcomes, you have an answer. You say, what? Wait. You push the envelope here. Where's the promised outcome? And if there's no promised outcome, you need to back off this, or we're not going to reelect you. They are feeling the pressure. In Michigan, for example, Michigan can lose one Democrat across the board, and all of these bills fail. Red flag laws, universal background checks, and safe storage laws. They all fail if they lose one Democrat. And they've already got recall efforts going. The people are acting and the people are showing up and they're feeling it. That's the only reason that they would say, I have concerns about constitutional issues. I promise it's because the people have concerns, not because they have concerns.
Yep. And keep in mind, politicians are all about self-preservation. They exist to maintain power. And when you do things that jeopardizes that power, like you said, when you have one seat difference between, the two sides arguing, you don't want to give up that seat. and you don't want to lose power. So you're going to back off. And that's the way the political system is supposed to work, right? It stinks. Politics are dirty. But the reality is, if the system is upheld, it will eventually work. And, the thing we always got to battle are these activist judges and activist, politicians. But we are getting there. Slowly but surely, we're getting there.
We got the top, baby.
Yep. And we're holding the high ground right now. And it's a glorious thing to witness. And it's kind of funny. But, I don't want to stick a stick in their eye either too much, because they're actually doing the right thing. And we have to applaud that. Even if we don't agree with them philosophically, we still have to applaud them doing the right thing, even if it's under duress.
Right. And just to clarify, he's not applauding gun control. He's applauding Democrats halting on gun control because
of constitutional issues they're finally recognizing.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So you may not agree with them philosophically or ideologically, but at the end of the day, they're backing off the Second Amendment because at least
they're doing the right thing for the wrong reasons, but they're doing the right thing.
There you go. I like that.
Self-preservation is an amazing thing. Yeah.
Oh, well, I think, and kind of wrapping that thought up, I think that's the most powerful part of our system. Yes, politicians are dirty. They're like diapers. They need to be changed frequently. But honestly, the self-preservation aspect is what keeps the people's voice strong. Because if that self-preservation didn't exist and they were elected for life, they would have no concerns about what people thought because they were doing what was right in their minds. But because it matters what people think, that's the power of our system. And that's why you matter watching this episode. 100%.
Absolutely. And on that note, folks, please stay politically active, stay engaged, join organizations like Gun Owners of America, get involved, call those representatives, do everything you possibly can, because we can and will win this fight. We're going to fight this fight for the rest of our lives. That's just the nature of things. But we have the argument on our side. We have the Constitution on our side. Everything points to us and victory in maintaining our rights. It just takes you being politically active. All right, guys, thank you for watching. And until next time, we'll talk to you soon.